We are live today on Just Two Dads. It's a special show because it's going to be just one dad. This is Brian Altunian. I'd say with my co-host, but he's not here at the moment. So today we have a special guest. It's our 1 year anniversary from the first time that Susanna Peace Lovell first joined Just Two Dads. So we're going to talk about great things. We're going to talk about raising teenage girls into young women, that transition, and invisible disabilities, and a whole bunch of other great topics today on a special episode of Just Two Parents. So we're going to call it Just Two Parents. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Brian Altunian. I'd like to welcome everybody who's catching us live on Facebook. Oh, look at that. Already we've got, look at that. We already have a great comment from my daughter, Joe.
Oh, yes. Hi, Joe.
If you're catching us live on Facebook, thank you. Put comments in there. It's just so sweet. Put comments in there. We'll bring them into the conversation. And if you're not catching us live, that's okay. You can catch us on our We Are Just Two Dads YouTube channel. We are also on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts and all podcast outlets, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I don't know. There are so many of them. And you'll catch us on WSTX AM radio down in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So welcome, everybody. We hope that you participate. Send us notes, send us comments, comment on our YouTube channel, subscribe, share them with your friends. Because we want to engage this audience. We are about, I know that we have said this for now over a year, but we're about to launch our website with resources and all of the folks that we've had as guests on our show. Some amazing people that we've discovered and shared conversations with over the last, now I think we're on episode, Susanna, we're on episode 66, I think. 66,
Amazing.
And so today I want to, it's a special episode because 1 year ago, I think it's a year ago tomorrow, actually. 1 year ago was the first time that we had a chance to meet our amazing guest, who is a mom of a daughter, of an amazing child with who was on the autism spectrum, and has a lot of other other issues. The most prevailing, I think, is that now she's a teenage girl. So it's probably the biggest challenge out of all. But Susanna is a coach, an advocate, really kind of one title doesn't really properly cover everything that you do in the special needs community. You're an advocate, and you manage part of the We Are Brave Together, the support group out here in Los Angeles and Southern California, and many other things, and constant contributor, and about to become a world-renowned author. So welcome to the show, Susanna. It's great to see you again.
Yay! Thank you, Brian. I miss you, Sean, out there. Is he watching, or he will?
I think he'll catch it.
Obviously, super huge shoes to fill. So I will not even attempt to fill the shoes that are Sean Francis's shoes. Just sort of reflecting back on the year. We were just talking about it the other day. It was a day after the presidential election last year that I was a guest for the first time on the My Two Dads, Just Two Dads podcast. And since then, I think I've been a guest maybe a handful of other times. This is my first time sort of being like a guest / I'm going to call myself a co-host.
Yes.
For today, just one dad and one mom.
Exactly.
And so it's always fun to reflect back on sort of what has transpired over the last year, because so much has happened in terms of just the way that we've been able to co-create with content and delivery and being of service to our beloved special needs community with our virtual summit that we did. And we have another one coming up in February that is going to be really geared specifically for fathers. And that is just going to be, I think, epic and very amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And
that's going to be fun. Yeah, and I love that, and I love the partnerships. I love the conversations that we have, and because how this entire thing started, just as a reminder for those folks, or if you're just catching us for the first time, Sean and I started this conversation 6 years ago, really in the context of our business, and we are in the financial services business, and so we support families and small businesses and individuals with their financial planning and estate planning and insurance and that type of thing. And as in fact, my daughter Jo, who's often a a viewer and definitely a supporter of what we're doing, as we were talking about our business and how we could look at, we don't want to leave any families behind. And Jordan had said to me, hey, what's my community, Dad? Like, what's my community that I can actually begin to talk to about the work that you do? And I said, well, of course, it's the special needs community. And that began a conversation that Sean and I had. I knew Sean's son, Elijah, was on the autism spectrum. And when I said to him, are you doing anything in this particular area? And we began to talk about finances and planning. It's one of the things that I know that every family needs. But when you have someone in the special needs community, our focus generally is on, like, what's my child doing? What can he or she do today? Can she get through school? Will she have a job? Will he be able to live on his own? Those are the kinds of conversations. Forgetting that, what happens to my child after I pass away? And is there a plan in place for that to occur? And as we began to meet amazing people in the special needs community, he and I just started a conversation like, why don't we just talk about these issues that we face? And a lot of times, and by the way, we've had this validated, so many conversations where a lot of times moms lead the charge. You're a perfect example. You have led the charge. You are, really leading the effort as an advocate for your daughter, Arizona. And dads, I don't know if we just take a back seat, or there are I can't say there are very few because I don't know what the numbers, but the number seems smaller of the dads involved in the conversation and being an advocate. And Sean and I were two partners who realized that our partners had taken on a majority of the lift, and yet we still had a voice, but the voice wasn't really being communicated. And the more that we talked, the more we thought, we're just two dads having a conversation about the things that impact the special needs community. Let's talk to other people that are doing stuff in the special needs community. Let's see if we can expand the reach. And this conversation you were one of our first guests, really, like, early on in the process. And for those of you, if you've ever, I don't even know if we have it still posted somewhere, but like one of our first episodes, I think I had a guest. I was on the phone and we were talking to a guest. Like, we were so technologically challenged. Not that we've come that far since then, but I think that was in like August or September, and then you came on in November, and so we were just kind of getting in our groove and heard and discovered a lot of things in our conversation with you, and I personally have learned so much from the conversations I've had with you, and so yes, as we reflect on the year. Sorry, I'm just sort of rambling, but as we reflect on the year that since we first started. By the way, that day after the election, there was no really officially a declared winner. And I think, right, in some corners, they would say, well, it's still not been declared, but it has changed the way we communicate with one another, hasn't it? Like, what's happened in the last year, the pandemic, the election, the challenges that we've had, it's how it's impacted our lives, our work lives, our school for our children. Everything has been impacted. So, anyways, a lot has changed, and first of all, we're sitting in a place that even 2 weeks ago we were not in. So I'm in a new office. I have a new office that I'm in now, and you are in a new home. So not only has the world and our communication changed, and our children have aged another year, but even that has shifted where you're actually sitting, and that must have had an impact. And talk about that a little bit. Like, how has that had an impact on you and in Arizona? Because it's a good place to sort of like lead into how we've incorporated changes into our lives.
Yes. And so change, whether it's emotional change, physical change, external environment change, internal change, shifts, transitions, all of that is typically very, very challenging. I would say, for most individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And I like to describe Arizona as being on the spectrum with a lot of fun side dishes that sort of go along with the official autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. She also has an official diagnosis of ADHD. She has sort of generalized anxiety, not uncommon with individuals on the spectrum. And then, she also has another fun little situation in that she's very highly allergic to a lot of foods. So food allergies sort of just kind of take over our entire life. In terms of, being the most prohibitive in terms of like traveling and engaging in social engagements and, even
Sure.
going to restaurants, there are a very few that we can go to safely, knowing that there is also not any cross-contamination in the kitchen. It's a lot. But, sort of getting back to the subject of change and transition, I will say, so Arizona, my beloved teenage daughter, is now 15 years old. From the time that she was born, she has now lived in 8 different homes. So this is her eighth home experience for various reasons. Nothing sort of ever really planned and not planned. For whatever reason, we have moved that many times. Now, in the beginning, when she was really young and didn't sort of understand what was happening, there wasn't really much acting out around the change and transition. When she started getting older is when she got more connected to her things and her stuff. And I would say that was just sort of a form of being able to control things when she felt so out of control in other areas of her life and wasn't really able to fully express herself yet, and her feelings and understanding and processing what all of those things meant. So for her, control for her was like, I'm going to have my things, and that is going to keep me calm and sort of regulated. And so she has a lot. So she has a lot of things. They might be like little things. She might have all these little dolls that have like, different pairs of shoes and outfits and so on and so forth. She accounts for every tiny little detail of every little thing. That's just how her brain works.
Yeah.
And there's only so much space, on this earth. So, and then there are Christmases and birthdays. And so you're always getting more stuff. And then she gets attached to that stuff. So that's kind of her in terms of like feeling like in control. Okay, so I know where my stuff is. I need my stuff. So moving from place to place, usually you have this I think it's beautiful because it gives you the opportunity to sort of assess what you have, decide what you just don't use and don't need, purge that, create the space for something new, even if it's just new energy, and then just move forward. That does not work for Arizona at all, ever. And so we have this process. And the last couple of moves, as she's been older and sort of more aware of what's going on, she just holds on to every little stuffed animal and And again, there's so much stuff. So I have to, admittedly, say, this is a confession, you guys. About 2 moves ago, a lot of her stuff just got lost in the move.
In the move, yes.
Because I wasn't.
Because it happens. Gets lost in the move.
I know, but I always want to be as transparent as possible with my child. Like, I just want to give her the information so we can process it through, not in any sort of way that puts any more power on it that needs to be. But I do like to just tell the truth. And I didn't that time because I was like, I don't know, the move, it got lost. I don't know what happened. So now, though, what we do is we say, okay, you know what? What would you like to be in your room with you when you first move in? We have a whole process around that. We create a visual schedule. We write lists. We go through each item. Her behaviorist, who comes to the house twice a week, was also a very big part of this process. So that was like on their agenda too. Yeah. In terms of, okay, what's going to go to the house? What can you give away? Now, her giveaway pile was like this little. And it was like random stuff like a shoelace, you know what I mean? But then we made this agreement together. Like, you know, we have this wonderful and amazing housekeeper who helps us. Her name is Lillian. She's been with us for a long time. And so we say, what are the things that we can give to Lillian's nieces and nephews?
Oh, beautiful.
That can be so great for them, that are toys and items that you really just don't play with any longer. You're so mature now. You've grown out of these things.
Yeah.
Okay, Mama. Okay. I can give some things to Lillian, and then maybe they can just hold on to them for us, you know? And then that is her way to sort of bless and release those items, because she knows they're going to go somewhere. It's not super nebulous. She'll never see them again. Trust. I will make sure not the barnyard set again. Yeah. And then that makes her feel like, okay, so I was part of that process. I was part of that, you know, decision around where my stuff is going to go. Now, the other big aspect, am I talking too long?
No, it's great.
Okay. The other big, because I'm going to keep going. The other big sort of aspect around the transition and moving is, okay, but this is my home. I've created this to be my home. And 2 moves ago was really, really, or no. Yeah, 2 moves ago was really, really challenging, because we had come from a home that we had sort of built from scratch, you know, in terms of like being part of the entire process of picking out all the fixtures, and her being a very big part of the process. Like, that's going to be my room, and here's how I want, and I would like a window here and a window there. I mean, built from the ground up.
Yeah.
And so moving from that home, which was unexpected, but things happen. She was just kind of like, this was supposed to be my forever home, and you are disrupting my life. You are ruining my life. And I kind of hear that every other day anyway, for some reason. Or other.
Again, teenage girl. Yeah. It just across the board.
But because we had made it from that sort of big, you know, feeling to the last house that we lived in, and Arizona was able to quickly because I kept saying, you know, Arizona, we are home. We are our home, right? And after we had moved everything out and she had seen the new place already, I took her back to the old house, and I was like, nothing was there, right? I said, look, it's just a shell. So we create, you know, we are like artists that, you know, have this blank canvas to create what we want our homes to look like and how we want to feel and the energy that we bring. And so our last house that we lived in, which by the way was like night and day opposite of the house that we lived before in terms of like external sort of features and complete night and day. But then we were in the home and we created the same memories and experiences in that home, like could not have been more cozy. So I was like, Arizona, we know how to create a cozy home. No matter where we go, we will create a cozy home and crazy home.
Yeah. Well, crazy home too. Yeah. But it's
yes or no. And she's like, yes, Mama, yes. So this transition was much smoother, not without bumps,
sure,
but much smoother because of our lived experience.
Yeah.
Having gone through.
I was going to say what you're talking about, and the thing I think we mention a lot as we have these kinds of conversations is that this transcends the special needs community. I mean, I think these conversations with children about impermanence, especially when it comes to moving, you know, and exactly what you just described, which is we're the home. It just happened to be living in this particular and this particular shell, as you say. I think not every, I'm generalizing, but I would think a lot of children go through that when they've been, you know, born and grown up in a home and then they move. How many of us remember our childhood homes? I mean, I still remember I still have memories of certain, you know, a hallway or the room or how our beds were set up and all of that stuff from the place that I grew up in. And I'm, you know, that was a long time ago. And so we all have those memories imprinted upon us of our home. So, you know, what you've just described is, you know, I think something that's fairly common for children, but it's interesting because the way you deal with it, taking into consideration the fact that how Arizona processes. And I think that's the thing that we can say, that parents of children who are in the special needs community is we're more aware that our children process information differently. And so we provide and present the information in a way that helps them process it so that it makes sense of their world. Would you agree with that? That's
for sure.
That's really, I mean, again, and for those, Jordan, didn't not on the spectrum, but some learning issues and some cognitive issues, but processing information in a way that she can take the information in bite-sized pieces or whatever, and then be able to and by the way, for those who don't know, Jordan is now almost 26. Oh my God, she's going to be 26 this month. Married, living in upstate New York, and she and her husband are rebuilding. Her in-laws live in this massive house in an area upstate New York, and they're building their apartment, a 3-bedroom apartment in what was formerly the top floor of the attic area, really. And they're doing it by, from scratch. And so watching her she'll FaceTime me. I don't even know if she's still on that right now, but she'll FaceTime me with like, you got to see this. And it'd be like, the room will be all, drywalled, and, now we're going to patch, and now we're going to paint. And so how they're transitioning themselves into what was a shell into now a livable home that they're building and they're creating. It's fun to see. But she processes the world a little bit differently. And so I know when I have a conversation with her, I have to present information that is easy. Oh, she's there. Yeah. That we have great conversations because, I understand how she processes information. And again, it's fascinating and amazing to see the progress. And so, again, I went through we haven't really talked about, but the teenage years for girls. So we should talk about that for a second, because you are right in the throes of it. And by the way, I have a neurotypical teenage son, and I'm going through it too. It's this, I don't know what happens to these children, and they turn into demons of some sort. And then they come out of this process. It's almost like we're watching metamorphosis occur. And then they turn into these lovely people who, we love and adore. So Jordan I love talking to her husband, because it's
is that what happens? Is that what happens?
Yeah. She'll be lovely again. You guys will be best friends. Right. Mark Twain used to have this saying about him. He says, when I was 7 years old, my dad knew everything. And then when I was 14 years old, my dad knew nothing. And when I turned 21, I was amazed to see how much the old man had learned in the last 7 years. Right. That's the transition that occurs, I think, and again, I have a teenage, right? And I have a teenage son now, and all of a sudden I'm a complete idiot, according to him. I just asked him, like, what do you do on Snapchat? What's that all about? And I asked him, to solve the world hunger problem. He's like, it's like crazy, like Halloween hasn't ended for us, but and the hormones that happen at the teenage years, that is something that, exacerbates a lot of this. So tell me about that. How's that been in your household?
Oh my goodness.
Hormonal.
Well, first of all, can we go back to Jordan really quickly?
Oh yes, of course. I love talking about that.
So Jordan, can you tell me when Jordan's birthday is?
November 19th.
Okay. So November 19th, Jordan will be 26, right? And so you kind of mentioned a bunch of different things about who Jordan is today at the age of 25, almost 26. And so I just want to take a moment to just sort of acknowledge what is happening today with Jordan at the age of 25, almost 26. And then if you take a snapshot of what is right now, what is real and true for her right now, right? And then you go back 23 years ago, 22 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have that sort of snapshot of time and space of what you knew to be real and true about Jordan at that time, right? And what the professionals, doctors, therapists, assessors, so on and so forth, are saying to you about the trajectory that this child will, be able to move forward in this life.
Yeah, it was quite a shock, and I don't know if it's part of as she continues to comment. It was a shock because it was jarring in that it shattered the picture that we had for what we thought was going to happen with our child. The image of where, we thought this, where our child was going to go, and what our doctor said to us was all of the things that she wouldn't accomplish and that
Wow.
she wouldn't be able to do. And that was 23 years ago. And, we didn't have, I mean, we had the internet, but we didn't really, like, the internet wasn't as, we didn't have a lot of resources that we knew of. And, we were told she wouldn't graduate high school or drive a car or live on her own, have a job. She wouldn't, she would need assisted living her whole life. That's what we were told. And like 18 months old, like, how do you make that diagnosis? And she was a well-known neurologist and a great reputation. And, some people would have just said, okay, I guess that's it. I guess that's the label. So let's deal with that. We were not that way. We were, whether it was out of denial or out of like just pure, like, I'm going to prove you wrong, which is probably more where I came from. We did everything we could to try to give Jordan the tools to be successful at every step in her, in her life, from surrounding her with, people who loved her, to putting her in school environments. And we tried a bunch of different school environments. Like, you have 8 different, places where you lived. We had 12 different schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. So we tried everything: homeschool, charter school, private school, public school, you name it. We tried it because we wanted to give her the best opportunity to succeed. And I think that at the end of the day, every parent should be focused on that. Don't be satisfied with just putting your child in the, in the high school that's your home school because it's where you live and it's convenient, it's easy. You want to put them in an environment where they're going to have a chance to win and be their best selves from the time that they're a child all the way through, early adult. And so thank you for acknowledging her, because who she is today is, she drives to work. She works at a school. She's been an aide in a classroom of special needs children. She's now studying. She's getting her, first of all, graduate high school. Now she's studying for her AA. She's getting her college degree. She drives a car. She's married. She has a stepchild. She's an amazing being. And there are times when, our adult children still act like children, but for the most part, she is getting to the point where she is as a BA. Now she's corrected me. See, this is what happens with a child and a parent. She's getting a BA, not an AA. She's getting her BA, or BA degree in ed college. So, but this is what happens. And hopefully for you, it's been one of those things where you can look at and see, I'm really just dealing with what my child looks like now and what I'm dealing with today, and looking at it from an aspirational perspective, like that's where she's going. All the things that have been defined for Arizona were the things that were, predefined for Jordan. And those are limitations that other people place on us. By the way, neurotypical too. But other people put expectations on us.
That's right.
And, so doesn't mean you have to live into those expectations. You can excel and succeed. And Jordan's done that beyond our wildest dreams. So that's been a great thing for us.
Yeah.
Amazing. So thank you.
I just always like to take that pause.
You just want to see me cry. That's what you like to do. You like to see me get my leaky eyes.
Leaky eye syndrome. It's touching for me because in the special needs world, for whatever reason, our experience has been that it has been largely boys. Yes, girls sprinkled in here and there, but, there have been many, group therapy, social skills camps where Arizona's the only girl. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard for me, listen, in the neurotypical world, men and women, we're so different. Boys and girls are just different. And so
Venus, Mars.
I'm not trying to make a generalized statement, by the way, because I understand there can be some fluidity and so on and so forth. But, so it's been challenging for me as a mother of a daughter to sort of find my little lighthouses along the way of what it's going to be like to raise a daughter for the next, sort of stage in the game. I mean, puberty was a big one, like hormones kicking in. I was like, oh my, what do I do? I have one friend, Nancy Broderick, my dear friend Nancy, who has a daughter who's 2 years older than Arizona, also on the spectrum, some, challenges there, anxiety, so on and so forth. And I met her when Arizona was maybe 4 or 5. And so she's always been my person, like, okay, so what happens when? Okay, so what happens when? Because she's 2 years ahead, right? So I guess all of that to say, it's just always so nice to follow along Jordan's journey to the point where I can just have a conversation with her. I'm just learning through you about what's going on with Jordan. I have FaceTimed her. I have been on a Zoom with her. I was going to participate in one of her school projects for her BA, but it turned out she needed like a certified teacher or something that I didn't really fit into the exact criteria for, but still, she connected with me about asking me if I could be that. So I don't know what the future is going to look like specifically for Arizona, but what I do know is that she has the tools to express herself, to speak up for herself, to advocate for herself. She has the desire to be independent. She was asking me for something in the kitchen the other day, and I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead and go get it. Mommy, I just want you to get it for me. And I was like, learn life skills. Oh, you just want me to be independent. You're teaching me how to be independent. Sure. And also don't bother me. Like, and also get your own snack.
Get your own snack.
And she can get her own snack, but sometimes she just has this emotional neediness of wanting me to be part of her every process, which is a lovely and beautiful thing, but no, thank you. No, thank you. So anyway, I'm just, I'm excited. I'm energized by everything that can be possible for our children.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so can we talk about boys for a second? How's that been for her? Has that been a new
boy? Oh yeah. Boys. Well, I think she doesn't quite, this is the beautiful innocence of having a child who is differently wired. Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, she doesn't care about what other people really think about her in terms of like what she wears and how she looks. And, she's just it's a beautiful innocence that I, wish more of our young people
all had.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she is starting to be aware of having attractions to people and people having attractions to her. There's this one boy at her school who is like the sweetest ever. And he's just had a crush on her for years. And he's in, her social skills group and some other things. He has an aide at the school too. And he just, is always like, Arizona, you are the rose in the middle of thorns.
Oh my God.
He just gets so embarrassed. Mommy, but I just don't want him to say so many things. And I was like, wow. And I'm thinking, I want someone to tell me. And so we're working through that to the point where she's just like, well, I just want to be friends with him. And I'm going to tell. So she understands like attraction. And then yesterday or 2 days ago when I was picking her up from school, she said, yeah, a lot of boys have crushes on me. And I was like, okay, all right. How do you feel? Yeah, that's fine. I think maybe I'm a hottie.
Okay.
Love
that.
Anyway, let's work on your addition and subtraction of polynomials. That's most important. So anyhow, but yeah, I think she's understanding. I don't know if she really grasps what it actually really means. I think she can sort of surface level say, oh, those two people are in a relationship that's a romantic relationship because they're attracted to each other. Those people are in a relationship that is a friendship, not necessarily like a partnership toward coupledom. I think she gets it literally, but I don't know. I don't know if she really knows.
Yeah.
I don't know if she really knows even what it is that she desires for in the future. She's 15, and she is sort of much younger in terms of maturity, really. And I want to hold on to that as long as possible.
For sure.
If possible.
For sure. I think dads would feel the same way about their daughters, right? We'll keep our daughters innocent as much as possible, and the boys are going to be a disaster anyway. So let them run, let them go and run their head first into a wall. That's okay, because they're just going to get out of there. They're just going to do stupid stuff because that's what boys do as teenagers. But that's sweet. But going back to what you had said about the pausing and looking back, where is she today relative for you relative to when the first diagnosis?
Yeah, and so like you were talking about in the beginning, where everyone was telling you what Jordan would not be able to do.
Yeah,
can't do this, won't do this, will always need support, will always need help. Same thing for us. And Arizona, we probably realized something was going on with her when she was around 2. And by 2.5, she had, like 10 diagnoses. So it was sort of a short window of time to just sort of even process like, oh, there's something different. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. That was very challenging. But I always sort of look back at that time and refer to it as the checklist of nevers, because all of these nevers, your child will never do this, your child will never say that she loves you. And if she does, she won't mean it. She'll just be like sort of speaking rotely and echoing words. If she has friends, they're not going to be real friends. She won't be able to really make real friends and connections. She's always going to need help her entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on, and I'm sure our lists were probably very similar.
Yeah.
And it was gloom and doom, really. I mean, well, we talk about this, Jordan's 25, Arizona's 15. So there's still 10 years between them. And even still, there was not a lot of support. Yes, we had full-blown internet 10 years ago. But there was not a lot of support. There was not a lot of resources. I didn't have any connection to any families that I knew of in the special needs community. I barely had girlfriends who had kids, sort of like the first of my friends to have a baby. And I grew up with a lot of siblings, and I have cousins and nieces and nephews and so on and so forth. But when you're in it, it's a completely different experience, right?
For sure.
So the checklist of nevers, I always like to just say, oh, guess what? We checked off another checklist of last Friday, for example, 5 days ago, Arizona had 2 friends come home with her after school. First time ever.
Wow.
First time. Yes. And they it's not, she corrected me. It's not, I'm thinking, oh, you're going to have a play date. Mom, it's not a play date. I'm not 3. It's a hang.
Babies have play dates, Mom.
I know. I know, but that's like the last time friends. I mean, we have friends. She has friends. I have friends who have kids. We have sort of a social life with friends and community. But for her to schedule and organize with her friends, hey, let's have a hang after school. Now I have to coordinate a bunch of stuff with the moms, of course. But I picked them up, and they had a plan, and they got out early. We had some lunch together. Arizona was so nervous and so shy, so nervous. It really took her almost an hour and a half, 2 hours to just be okay and connect with them. But she has lunch with them every day, and they're both neurotypical, and, just like teens, like as most teens are these days. And it was a lovely experience, and she had the time of her life. But I was like, this is a huge milestone.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge milestone.
It's almost like you've got your list of nevers, and you want to have your list of firsts, right? Like you want to create a list of the first time they've done something that, especially if it was on the list, so you can cross off. Not only is it not a never, it's we've done it.
Right. And and I've been calling it sort of my milestone list, but only because yes, it's the first. And then so many more, like, okay, this and so much more. We just start here now, and then we go up, or expand, or however you want to, whatever lens you want to look at it through. And already she's talking about, when can we plan our next hang? And this time I want to invite this other friend. And I was like, any day, all day. I will,
for sure.
Whatever I have to do to arrange my schedule to make that happen, because it's just priceless. These experiences for her.
For sure. And one of the concerns that we always have as parents of children, who are wired differently, is the social interaction. Are they going to be able to, and again, especially as teenagers where children are, kids are ostracized, they're bullied, they're left out, there's so many things that can happen. And so the socialization is one of those that as parents, I think we're always hypersensitive about. And so when we have a great, some great success, it definitely is something to be celebrated. Definitely makes a huge difference.
So I'm curious. I haven't had these experiences yet with Arizona, but I'm always like, people are always asking like, oh, have you gotten to the mean girl stage yet? Like, have mean girls, entered into your life? We really, and I don't know if we're just in this lucky bubble or what, but Arizona, we have not experienced that. I saw this clip. Someone sent me this clip last week where it was so heartbreaking. There was this girl with special needs. I think this was like Kentucky, somewhere in the South. Girl with special needs, and all these other girls invited her over for a sleepover, and they filmed her. And when she showed up, they beat her up, and the moms were even involved in like making jokes about it and ha ha ha. And I was like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, who?
Yeah.
Because I would be going to jail that day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for certain. Yeah. So I've never even had a tinge of that experience with Arizona. And again, I am quite hands-on with her. My schedule is organized in a way that I can be flexible to pick her up from school every day. But I'm wondering if you have experienced, and even with your other daughter, Gabby, like,
well,
how do we protect, but then allow them to live and experience? What do we do?
But here's the thing. I think that you're bringing up something that's really, that's really interesting and significant, because the reality is our children only experience those mean, let's use that as an example, the mean girl experience, if they process it and they take it as, they take it to heart, they take it personally, like, oh my God, they were so mean to me. But if you don't process the information that way, you don't come home brokenhearted. Like, you don't come home. And I'll tell you this: when Jordan was in, oh God, I want to say it was like second grade. She was in a private school in Southern California, and there's a lot of snooty, They literally had to call all of the parents of the girls together, the young, because it was second grade, the young girls, to have them be aware of the bullying that was happening in second grade. The mean girl stuff was happening in second grade, and we didn't experience it because Jordan didn't process it that way. Like, it wasn't like if they were mean to her, it didn't register with her. So we were like, really, mean girls at second grade? Like, that's so weird. And to the other parents, are like, oh, we knew that this was going to be a problem. And what do we do with it? And like, they would like, then we're going to be proactive. But because she didn't process it that way, it wasn't as much. Now, as she got older, and the funny thing about Jordan is, even from the time that she was about 2 years old, she's been fascinated with boys and men, like literally, like at 2 years old. I remember her sitting in a high chair at a restaurant, and we were in Hawaii, and the waiter was this, Hawaiian, and maybe it was just because he was just looked a little different. It was a Hawaiian, beautiful Hawaiian teenage boy. And I remember her sitting in her high chair, just going like, as he walked by, just like totally mesmerized, from the time that she was 2 years old. So she's always had an active friendship relationship with boys. And that is where mean girl stuff comes up, because
Well,
other
yeah.
girls don't like it when
Right.
the boy of interest is, somebody else is showing them attention. And so as she got older, the other girls would take it out on her. And in fact, we had an incident, not to get too deep into the whole conversation, but we had an incident in high school, and when her first year in high school as a freshman, where she was being helpful to a girl, she thought, in saying, you should told the boy you should go out with my girlfriend, because that's what she did. She was very social, and the girl took offense to it and actually physically harmed Jordan as a reaction. That's how the whole incident occurred.
Wow.
Not to get into details about that incident, but she physically took it out on Jordan, and Jordan didn't understand because Jordan thought she was being helpful. So the socialization aspect, Jordan could always hang with the boys and have fun with the boys and have fun with the girls too, but never really had that mean girl experience because it didn't process that way for her. Gabby is interesting because Gabby's 2 years younger, and Gabby internalizes everything. So whether or not if there's a mean girl thing happening, Gabby would internalize it as, and I mean, I think Gabby bursts out into tears, more often than me and my family, which is saying a lot. And so for her, I'm not sure that she really experienced mean girls as opposed to just sort of in general the socialization. She remained very shy and didn't really, she kind of limited her interactions. She sort of limited her own. She's self-regulated, limited her own exposure to the mean girl thing. But that's a very real thing for girls growing up in school, and it's part of the socialization. Unfortunately, it seems to be common and seems to be part of the socialization. So the fact that Arizona hasn't experienced it may just be because she's not processing it in a way that is hurting her, which is great. And again, something to be thankful for at the moment. And that may change, right? That may shift. That may change.
Yeah.
She may not be invited to a party or something like that, where she'll be like,
right.
That may be the thing where like, oh, that was
the innocence is still there. And so Arizona has had an aide with her every day, all day since she started first grade. So the aide, but also the aide would tell me as well. You know what I'm saying? And there really has not been any sort of thing. And I'm not waiting for it to happen. But I do know that, certain things now she would have very, very strong reactions to, because she's starting to feel those emotional connections with friends.
Yeah.
We had a moment last Friday, full transparency, one of the girls, so I was going to take the girls home around 4:30, the friends who came over, and around 3:30, one of the friends was like, I'm just wondering if you could take me home a little bit earlier. And I was like, sure. And I literally had this ouch moment, like, wow, they can't tolerate hanging out with my child, which by the way was absolutely not the case. She just said, no, I have this headache. And I was like, okay, great excuse. But when I mentioned it to her mom, she's like, oh yeah, she got hit in the jaw with a soccer ball the other day, and ever since something's off. I need to take her to the doctor. And she, to her credit, like I took her home, she went straight to bed, took some medicine and went to, but I had that moment. I had that tiny little moment of like, my child, she's losing out on an hour with a friend that she's been looking. So, I mean, that did not affect her, by the way. She's like, okay, so literal. Oh, she has to go. But I was internalizing like Gabby, like I was like, oh, staying out with my child. And anyhow, but I realized like, I just have to let it all go. Right.
Yeah.
I can do what I can. And it's important for her to have these experiences too. I don't want to completely shelter her from the world. I want to protect and, just like the fact that she's had experience moving to 8 different homes and knowing now that she can create a cozy home no matter where she is in whatever environment she
For
is.
sure. Well, and the next transition for her, the next major transition for her will be from middle school to high school. And a lot of times that's when things begin, because besides hormones, a lot of the children that she's in middle school with may go to different high schools, and people that she didn't go to middle school with will be going to the same high school as her. So massive change in the social makeup in that transition. And depending, I remember, Blake is now 14. He's a freshman, and very few of his schoolmates from middle school are going to his high school. So he had to transition, into a whole new set of, luckily for him, he plays sports, so he was able to acclimate because he had, baseball as a sport to be the thing that he could. That's why clubs are such a big deal in high school, right? All the clubs, chess club, theater, all that is because it gives you a place of belonging, a place where you can go and create a new, smaller social community within the larger social and, larger community of the high school. So, one of the things for Arizona will be to find either friends that she went to school with and or a club or something that she can be a part of, so that transition is a little bit smoother and is in a group of friends that will be supportive of her, and vice versa. So, but that's a big transition. That one's coming next year. So,
I'm
seatbelt on, strap on.
I know.
Tight.
Well, luckily for her, she will still have an aide with her all day, and she's okay with that, by the way.
Interesting.
Because she's always had one since she was in first grade, so she doesn't have any issue with having a helper. She's okay with that. And so I'm just so grateful that she's going to have that experience with somebody at her side who can, sort of take a step back, but also advocate when necessary, but also let me know what's going on
For
so
sure.
that I can best support my child. And Arizona she's already 15. So technically she could be a sophomore in high school, but she's in 8th grade, obviously, our own sort of timing for everything that works out perfectly for us. So we'll just have to see.
Well, and
and we'll make changes if we have to. Like, we just know
that's the thing.
To be flexible.
Have to be flexible. And the great thing is, and so for people who know, Susanna and I live close enough in proximity that Arizona will be going to the same high school that Blake will be at. So they'll have a friendship there, and so she'll have somebody that she, who will be in the next grade. That I'm hoping you'll keep an eye out for her and protect. It's the same high school that Jordan went to for her first year as well. And so as she's responding, like, it's a big school, and it's a very large school.
I was gonna ask how many. So right now, Arizona's middle school, I think, is like 1,500 students.
3,900 students at Hamilton High.
Okay.
It's a big school, but that's why they have created smaller schools within the school. So
right. And I know thus far Arizona is really interested in the theater.
Of course, it'll be a great place, and it's a much smaller community, and it's almost as if it is a school within a school, 4 different schools, as Jordan is commenting.
Oh my goodness! I can't even. No, I can't.
I know it seems overwhelming, and yet at the same time, again, Blake is not, he's less focused on academics. Gabby was very involved. She wanted to be involved in every single thing in the world. Gabby did like 50 different things. When she graduated from college, she had a major and 3 minors. But Blake is like, he could care less. He was just playing baseball. He just wants to play baseball. So it seems less daunting. So because he's not really that focused. And so Jordan's posting the different kinds of schools within that particular school. So, but it's a transition. And the whole point of this conversation is, like, we've been friends now for a year. We've talked about things, and the world has transitioned in the last year. Like, the entire world, we've seen massive changes in a lot of the ways that we do things. Now we've got, cryptocurrencies, which are changing the way that the global currency system works. I mean, that's on a grand scale. We've got politics in the United States that is completely different than what it was 10 years ago, and communication is different. We're Zooming, we're using social media to communicate, and the world is a different place. So we've all been going through the transitions, and some of the challenges that we've seen in our world are reflective of the fact that we're trying to adjust to massive transitions. So the fact that our children go through it, it doesn't end. I think that's the bottom line, right? It doesn't end.
Yeah. And
if Arizona's lived in 8 houses, that means you've lived in 8 houses. You've had to transition.
True statement.
So, right?
Yeah. And I look at her moving to high school as like, that's going to be a big shift and change for me. 8th grade has been a shift and change for me in that I can now like drop her off right in front of the school instead of parking a couple blocks away wherever I can find a spot and walking her in and literally handing her off to her aide. I don't have to do that anymore because she has made that another milestone step toward that independence of literally right in front of the school. But still, what I mean?
Well, in a year or two, it's going to be drop me off 2 blocks away and don't come anywhere near the school. Just leave me.
That is never going to happen. She held my hand when I picked her up the other day, and that is always going to happen. Hold my hand. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's there's a great a gal. I think she's on. I don't know if she's on. I think she's on TikTok. She's probably on social media where she literally has a loudspeaker. And when her son, and her son walks off to school, she tells him, you're like horribly embarrassing things. And most of them not true. We're gonna get your rash looked at. Should have the reports back from the rash. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's horrible.
Abusive.
Okay, the kids think it's hilarious, and she's like, "I love you all," and all the kids wave to her. So they, But I used to yell, as soon as she would walk out, make good choices. Those are the kinds of things that we all do as parents. This saw my brother drop my nieces and nephews. They were like, "Do not come near the school," and he would roll the windows down, lock them so that they couldn't roll them up, and they would blast like AC/DC loud to drop them off in school. Oh yeah, it's the one thing that the parents we get to do is embarrass the crap out of our kids. So, but anyways, the fact that she still wants you to walk her in and hold her hand, or she wants you to be part of that process. To your point, cherish that, hold on to that, because it goes away so fast. Blake is like, seriously, do not keep going. Just drive down there and drop me off at the corner, and don't say anything. And if you say I love you, I'm going to, I'm going to go crazy. So
our babies are just growing up.
They grow up. They all grow up. But you're doing an amazing job. An amazing job with her, and she's such a precious child, and I've got a chance to spend some time with her, and I'm there. I don't think that a single time has gone by where I thought to myself, such a brilliant way that she processes the world. It's so fascinating to watch. It's amazing to me. Yeah. It's amazing to me how she processes the world. And there's no, as we all know when our children, they process the world differently. It's just different than the way we've done it. And there's no wrong or right. It is amazing. Stephen Hawking didn't process the world the way neurotypical people do. It's incredible. It's incredible to see. And I love watching her progress. And you're a great mom, and you are a rose among thorns, because you really do amazing work. And not just for her, but for other moms, single moms, and other moms of children that, have challenges. And so the work that you do is incredible. So you're awesome. And I love having you on the show, and I love being partners with you and all of us. And we're on an hour already. Our show is already an hour.
Can we get to our first topic now? I mean,
well, this
things. I'm always happy to sit in, as 2 dads and 1 mom, or just 1 mom and 1 dad, or one of these days I'll just have the show to myself.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. We're going to keep going. Log in,
but
do the whole thing.
Yes, always grateful to be here.
It's great to have you. And I'll end the way I always do it. I would say, now, and this is a perfect example, right now, empathy and love is what will make the world a better place. And if you see somebody who's going through something, be empathetic. You have no idea what challenges they're dealing with in the moment in their lives. And, if you can look at the world with lenses, through the lenses of love, the world would be a much better place. We would have, we would have understanding. And that at the end of the day is what we need, again, now more than ever. So I thank you for being on the show and our 1-year Friendversary. And I hope we have many more years of this. And I love being in the world with you. And I'm inspired by you on a regular basis. So thank you. And to everybody who's listening to us, thank you for tuning in. Joe, thank you for commenting. And folks, thanks for, share the show, share the ideas, send us your ideas of things that you'd like us to talk about in the future, other things that you'd like to hear Susanna talk about. We want to have Susanna do more of these. And if you've, as Sean would say, if you're hearing us, no matter where you are, we love you and thank you so much for being part of our Just Two Dads experience. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Susanna. Bye.
Bye.